Hello students, today we will see the very important topic from the urinary system, that is kidney. The urinary system, it includes pair of kidneys, their ureters, urinary bladder and the urethra. The kidneys produce urine and the ureters convey it to the urinary bladder for temporary storage. Finally, the urine is evacuated from the bladder through the urethra. So we will see in detail about the kidney. Under following headings: introduction and function, location, external features, coverings of kidney, relations of kidney, its coronal section, blood supply and lymphatic drainage, the nerve supply of kidney, and in detail about the applied anatomy. The kidneys are a pair of essential excretory organ which elaborates the urine and it eliminates the nitrogenous waste products of protein metabolism from the blood and maintain electrolyte and water balance of the body. It regulates the blood pressure by secreting renin, so it is mainly for the auto-regulation of the blood flow and the blood pressure. It regulates the red blood cell production by secreting erythropoietin. So erythropoietin, it is important for the maturation of the red blood cell. The kidney, it also secretes 125 hydroxycholecalciferol for the control of calcium metabolism. So this is in general the basic functions of the kidney. The kidneys, these are the pair of essential excretory organs which are located on the posterior abdominal wall, one on either side of the vertebral column. This is the view from the posterior side into which the kidneys are exposed retroperitoneally. So this is the ascending colon, the right kidney, descending colon and the left kidney. So these are the pair of excretory organs situated on posterior abdominal wall, one on either side of the vertebral column retroperitoneally. The right kidney, it is located somewhat at a lower level as compared to the left kidney because of the presence of the liver. The kidney, each kidney, it moves with the respiration because it is a subdiaphragmatic organ. So it moves with the respiration to an extent of 1.5 to 2.5 centimeter. It also moves lower down from supine position to standing position. So next we will see the location of the kidney. The pair of kidney, it is located on the posterior abdominal wall and it occupies the four quadrants of this abdominal region, and these four quadrants are epigastric, hypochondria, lumbar and the umbilical region. The vertical extent of the kidney, it is extending from upper border of the 12th thoracic vertebra to the center of body of 3rd lumbar vertebra. This much is the vertical extent of the kidney. The right kidney, it is located lower side because of the presence of the liver, and the left kidney is present nearer to the median plane as compared to the right kidney. Because of this position, the transpyloric plane, that is the plane which is passing, this is the transpyloric plane which is passing from the 1st lumbar vertebra, it present through the upper part of the hilum of the right kidney to the lower part of the hilum of the left kidney. So this is the passing of the transpyloric plane that is passing through the L1 level. So this hilum is situated near about level of L1. Vertical extent of kidney is from T12 to L3 and the hilum is located at the level of L1. Then we will see the dimensions of the kidney. Each kidney, it is a bean-shaped organ with the hilum directed medially. Its length is 11 cm in length, 6 cm in breadth and 3 cm in thickness. It weighs near about 150 to 170 gram in males and 130 to 150 gram in females. The long axis or the longitudinal axis of the kidney, it is directed obliquely, downward and laterally. So long axis of the kidney is directed downward and laterally, because of which the upper pole is located nearer to the median plane as compared to the lower pole. So upper pole is situated 2.5 cm away from the midline, whereas lower pole is situated 7.5 cm away from the midline because of this long axis of the kidney. The transverse axis of the kidney, it is directed backward and laterally, because of which the hilum of the kidney is facing anteromedially. The external features of the kidney it is having two poles, two borders and two surfaces. Two poles are upper pole, which is broad and it is overlapped by the corresponding suprarenal gland. The lower pole, it is pointed one. So the upper pole is present 2.5 cm lateral to the midline The lower pole is situated 7.5 centimeter lateral to the midline. The lateral border, it is soft and convex, whereas medial border, it is convex in upper and the lower part with presenting a concavity in between. This is the hilar concavity where the hilum or hilus of the kidney is situated. Hilum of the kidney, it is a place where entry and exit of blood vessel is present. Along with that, in the hilum of the kidney, there is also transmission of the renal lymphatics, nerves and the perinephric fat. So here at the hilum of kidney, the structures arranged are the renal vessels along with the renal pelvis, the renal lymphatics, nerves and the perinephric fat. The anterior surface of the kidney, it is said to be irregular in appearance, but looking at the surface, it is not clear that the kidney belongs to either of a right side or of a left side. So one most important criteria to identify the site determination of kidney is to see the structures which are present at the hilum of kidney. So structures present at the hilum of kidney from before backward, that is from anterior side to posterior side, these are renal vein, then renal artery and then renal pelvis. Renal pelvis is the upper expanded part of the ureter. So in this diagram it is clearly seen that most anterior structure is the renal vein, then posterior to it is the renal artery and most posterior structure is the renal pelvis, which is the expanded upper part of the ureter. So structure arranged from anterior to posterior side are renal vein, renal artery and renal pelvis. So by looking at this, it is clear cut now that this is the anterior surface which is irregular in appearance and the posterior surface which is flat in appearance. As the pelvis continues downward as the ureter. So continuity of this renal pelvis is the ureter which is directed downward. So this will be the lower pole and this will be the upper pole of the kidney. So upper pole, it is overlapped by the suprarenal gland and the lower pole, it is related with the ureter. So by looking at the hilum itself, it enables us to identify the site determination of a kidney. So external features, we are having two poles to the kidney, two surfaces to the kidney and two borders to the kidney. The hilum, it is located 5 cm lateral to the midline and it is present at the level of the first lumbar vertebra. The vertical extent is from T12 to L3 and the hilum is situated near about at the level of first lumbar vertebra. Then we will see the coverings or the capsules of the kidney. From within outward, that is from inside to outside, there are 4 coverings to the kidney. First one is the fibrous capsule which is called as the true capsule. Second one is the perirenal fat or the perinephric fat. Third one is the renal fascia which is called as the false capsule. And the fourth one is the pararenal fat or pararenal adipose tissue fascia. So fibrous capsule, it is considered as a true capsule which is formed by the condensation of the fibrous stroma of a kidney. It is a thin membrane which covers the kidney as well as the renal sinus, and in the healthy individual it can be easily stripped off. But if the infection is present, it is adherent to the kidney. So the fibrous capsule, it is considered as a true capsule. Next, outer to the fibrous capsule is the perinephric fat which is made up of the adipose tissue. This fat, it is more abundant at the cortex, at the lateral border of the kidney. So this fat is more abundant at the lateral border of the kidney. It covers the fibrous capsule. The third covering is the renal fascia. This renal fascia, it is having 2 layers. This is the anterior layer which is called as the fascia of Geroda and this one is the posterior layer which is called as fascia of Zuckerkandl. So there are 2 theories with this. This anterior and the posterior layer, this fused at the lateral border of the kidney to form a lateral conal fascia which blends with the fascia transversalis. So here is the fascia transversalis which covers the transversus abdominis muscle. So these 2 layers blends with the fascia transversalis. This is one theory. Next to that, according to that, the fascia then extends anteromedially behind the kidney as a bilaminated sheath. So initially it was taught that the fascia, renal fascia is consisting of the 2 layers, anterior layer and the posterior layer. But later on, it is clear that it is a single multilaminated structure which is fused posteromedially. So this is the single multilaminated structure which is fused posteromedially and it blends with the fascia covering the muscles of the posterior abdominal wall. The fascia then extend anteromedially behind the kidney, and it will split into anterior fascia, which is thin in appearance, and the posterior fascia, which is thick in appearance. So in this diagram you can see that this is the renal fascia which covers the kidney anteriorly, and it is thin in appearance. Then at the upper pole of the kidney, so these are the two theory, anterior layer, it is continuous medially with the anterior layer of the opposite side of the kidney. So this is the anterior layer which is called as the fascia of Zerota, and the posterior layer is called as fascia of Zuckerkandl. What are its extension laterally or horizontal tracing of this fascia? Horizontally, the anterior layer of one renal fascia is continuous. It covers the vessels, and it is continuous with the anterior layer of the another kidney. And posteriorly, posterior layer of this fascia, renal fascia, it is continuous with the fascia covering this muscles of the posterior abdominal wall, and it attached to the either side of the vertebra. This is the horizontal extension of the renal fascia. What will be the vertical extension of the renal fascia then? Vertically, this is the anterior layer, this one is the posterior layer. These two layers fused at the upper pole of the kidney, and it resplits to enclose the suprarenal gland, which again fused, and it will continuous with the subdiaphragmatic fascia. This is one theory. But research presently demonstrates that the superior aspect of the perirenal space, it is open and is in continuity with the bare area of the liver on the right side, and with the subphrenic extraperitoneal space on the left side. So on the right side, at the level of upper pole of the kidney, it is anterior fascia, it blends with the inferior layer of the coronary ligament and the bare area of the liver, whereas on the left side, at the upper pole of the kidney, it fuses with the gastrophrenic ligament. The posterior layer on both the sides, it fuses with the fascia of the muscles that are covering the psoas major and the quadratus lumborum muscle. These two muscles are present in the posterior layer. So this posterior layer of the renal fascia, it blends with this fascia. So this is the horizontal tracing and the vertical tracing of the renal fascia, which is the most important one. And last, fourth covering is the paranephric fat. This paranephric fat, it is present in much more amount at the posterior aspect of the kidney, and it is also present in abundant at the lower pole of the kidney. So this is the paranephric fat which is present at the posterior aspect of the kidney. So what are the factors that keeps the kidney in position, or in other words, what are the supports to the kidney? The pressure exerted by the surrounding viscera, it is maintained by this tone of the abdominal muscle. So first, tone of the abdominal muscle is the most important one. Next is this disposition of the renal fascia, which we have seen it already, and the distribution of the fat present surrounding to the kidney, that also gives support to the kidney. And lastly, the pedicles attached to the hilum, that means the renal vessels and the ureter or the renal pelvis that is attached to the hilum, this will also provide support to the kidney, as the kidney moves with the respiration at the extent of 1.5 to 2.5 cm. Nextly, we will see anterior relations of the kidney. So these are the pair of the kidneys on the right side and on the left side. We will see what are the anterior relations of the kidney. As you all of you know, the kidneys are retroperitoneal organ, that means they are located behind to the peritoneum. So few areas of the kidney, they are only covered by the peritoneum. We will see what are those areas that are covered by peritoneum and that are not covered by the peritoneum in detail. The anterior relations of the kidney. The upper pole, the broad upper pole and the upper part of medial border, this is the suprarenal area which is related with the right suprarenal gland. Upper 3/4 part of the anterior surface of the, this is the upper 3/4 part of the anterior surface of the right kidney is the hepatic area, and this area is related with the right lobe of liver, which is separated by hepatorenal pouch of Morrison. The area near to the hilum of the right kidney, this is the duodenal area which is related with the second part of the duodenum. A large lateral part of the lower pole of the kidney is the colic area which is related with the hepatic flexure of colon. And the small medial area of the lower pole of the kidney is the jejunal area which is related with the coils of the jejunum. So upper part of the medial border, it is related with the suprarenal gland, and the lower part of the medial border, it is related with the ureter. The large convex lateral border, it is related with the liver at the upper side and with the ascending colon at the lower side. So out of this area, only the hepatic area and the jejunal area, they are peritoneal. Whereas rest of the areas, that is suprarenal, duodenal and the colic area, they are non-peritoneal areas. So hepatic area and the jejunal area, they are peritoneal one and they are covered by peritoneum of the greater sac. So these are the relations, anterior relations of the right kidney. What are the anterior relations of the left kidney? The upper broad pole of the left kidney along with the upper part of the medial border is the suprarenal area, which is overlapped by the corresponding suprarenal gland of the left side. Upper two-third part of the lateral border along with its adjoining anterior surface, this upper two-third part, it is the splenic area. It is peritoneal in nature and it is related with the renal impression present on the spleen. A triangular area present in between the suprarenal area and the splenic area is the gastric area, which is related with posterior-inferior surface of the stomach, and it is again the peritoneal area. At the junction of this gastric area and the splenic area, it gives attachment to the lienorenal ligament. A non-peritoneal strip of area present near to the hilum is the pancreatic area and it is related with the body of pancreas and the splenic vessels. A small lateral part of the lower pole, it is the colic area related with the splenic flexure of colon, it is non-peritoneal. A large medial jejunal area, it is peritoneal area and it is related with the coils of the jejunum. So on the left kidney anteriorly, 3 areas are peritoneal and 3 areas are non-peritoneal. The peritoneal areas are gastric area, splenic area and the jejunal area. The non-peritoneal areas are suprarenal area, pancreatic area and the colic area. This left kidney, it is related with the 3 parts of the GI tract, that is stomach, then the colon and the jejunum. It is also related with the 3 glands, that is the suprarenal gland, the spleen and the pancreas. So these are the importance of the kidney. The upper part of the medial border is related with the suprarenal gland and the lower part of the medial border, it is again related with the ureter. So these are the anterior relations of the right and the left kidney. The posterior relations of the kidneys, they are common to both kidneys. Only the difference is that as the right kidney is located somewhat at a lower level as compared to the left one, so posteriorly only the 12th rib is present in relation. This is the right kidney and this one is the left kidney. This is exposed from the back side. So this is the view. This one is the right one and this is the left kidney. So posterior relations of the right kidney, they are the 12th rib, diaphragm taking origin from medial and lateral arcuate ligament. The 3 muscles arranged from medial side to lateral side, they are psoas major, quadratus lumborum and transversus abdominis muscle. Whereas on the left side, the posterior surface is related with the 11th and 12th rib and rest of the features are same. It is clearly seen in this view that this is the posterior surface of the right kidney. So it is related with the 12th rib only, whereas on the left side it is related with the 11th and the 12th rib. These are the medial and the lateral arcuate ligament from which diaphragm is taking origin. 3 muscles, psoas major, quadratus lumborum and transversus abdominis. The subcostal vessels and nerve, iliohypogastric nerve and ilioinguinal nerve. So these are the posterior relations of the kidney which are common for both the kidneys. The coronal sections of the kidney. Naked eye examination of coronal section of kidney shows clearly that 2 parts. Outer one is the cortex and inner pale is the medulla. So outer reddish brown is cortex and inner pale is the medulla. Medulla is consisting of 8 to 10 conical masses. These all are the conical masses which are called as renal pyramids. The renal pyramids is having pointing apex which is called as renal papillae, and towards the cortex these are the bases of the renal pyramid. So this is one renal pyramid with its renal papillae and renal base. So in such a way there are 8 to 10 renal pyramids are present. The renal papillae, they are indented by the minor calyces. These are the minor calyces. Cortex, it is again having 2 parts, that is cortical arch which caps over the bases of the renal pyramid and the renal column which are present in between the renal pyramid. So cortical arch and renal column, they are the parts of the cortex itself. So one renal pyramid along with its overlying cortical arch, it forms one lobe of kidney. So in such a way, there are about 8 to 10 lobes of the kidney are present. As one renal pyramid along with its cortical arch, it will form one lobe of the kidney. This is the renal artery, renal vein and the renal pelvis. These are the structures which are present at the hilum. Then what is renal sinus? Renal sinus, it is the space which is extending into the kidney from the hilum. So renal sinus, it is a space which is extending into the kidney from the renal hilum. So the contents of the renal sinus are branches of this renal artery, tributaries of this renal vein and the renal pelvis. So all these are the contents of the renal sinus, which is nothing but a space that is extending into the kidney from the renal hilum. It is divided into 2 to 3 major calyces, which are further divided into 7 to 8 minor calyces, being indented by the renal papilla. So this is the coronal section of kidney. Histologically, each kidney consisting of 1 to 3 millions of the uriniferous tubules. The uriniferous tubules is again having two parts, as the kidney is developed from two parts, secretory part and collecting part. Secretory part develops from the metanephric blastema and the collecting part it is develops from the ureteric bulb. The secretory part it is called as nephron. So nephron is the basic functional unit of a kidney, which is consisting again of renal corpuscle, also called as Marpighian corpuscle, and the renal tubule. So nephron is having two parts, renal corpuscle and the renal tubule. The renal corpuscle, it is consisting of this cup-shaped Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus. These are the parts of Malpighian corpuscle or renal corpuscle. The renal tubule consisting of proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle with its ascending limb and descending limb, and the distal convoluted tubule. So these are the parts of a nephron which act as a secretory part. The renal corpuscle, it is mainly for the filtration of substances from the plasma, and the glomerulus, it is nothing but the tuft of capillaries. Again, it is for the filtration. The renal tubule, these are mainly for the selective resorption of the substances from the glomerular filtrate. The collecting part, the collecting duct, there are many such collecting ducts which are forms, mainly the duct of Bellini, which opens at the renal papillae in the minor calyces. So these are the two parts, secretory part and the collecting part. The renal, this outline, above upper part they are present in the renal cortex, and the lower part they are present in the renal medulla. The juxtaglomerular apparatus, it is formed at the vascular pole of the kidney. In this diagram you can clearly see this is the histological diagram. Bowman's capsule is having two layers. Outer one is the parietal layer, which is consisting of the flattened layer of cell. Inner one, visceral layer, it is consisting of the podocytes, which are nothing but the food processes. This will form a glomerular basement membrane. Proximal convoluted tubule, it is simple cuboidal to simple columnar in appearance. The nucleus is present at the basal position, and there is the presence of microvilli or the brush border. Whereas basal region shows various cytoplasmic infolding with the arrangement of the mitochondria. The distal convoluted tubule, here the lining epithelium is the simple cuboidal epithelium with the absence of the brush border. Mitochondria are comparatively less as compared to the proximal convoluted tubule, and these tubules are mainly for the selective resorption of the substances that get filtered through the Bowman's capsule. And these are the thin and thick segments of the loop of Henle. So here at the vascular pole of the kidney, at the junction of this ascending limb of loop of Henle and the distal convoluted tubule is the location for the juxtaglomerular apparatus. It is mainly found at the vascular pole of the glomerulus, which is intimately related with the ascending limb of loop of Henle and the distal convoluted tubule. It is consisting of the macula densa and the juxtaglomerular cells. So these are the main two cells which are present at this juxtaglomerular apparatus. Nextly, we will see the arterial supply of the kidney. The kidneys, both the kidneys, they are supplied by the renal artery, which are directly the lateral branches of abdominal aorta given at the level of L2 level. At or near to the hilus, the renal artery is mainly dividing into two branches, the anterior branch and the posterior branch. The anterior branch, see here, The renal artery is divided at or near to the hilum into the two branches, anterior branch and this one is the posterior branch. Anterior branch further divided, these two branches further divided into segmental arteries. To the kidney there are 5 vascular segments. These are apical, upper, middle, lower and the posterior segment. So these are the 5 segments: apical, upper, middle, lower and the posterior segment. According to that, these renal artery is end artery and each vascular segment it functions independently. The anterior division will divide again into segmental branches and these are apical, upper, middle and the lower one, and the dotted line is the posterior division of the renal artery. So renal artery, it is the branch of abdominal aorta which is divided into 5 segmental arteries. Each segmental artery will divide into lobar artery. So lobar artery is given for each lobe of the kidney which is formed by the renal pyramid along with the overlying cortical arch. So segmental artery gives lobar artery. That lobar artery will divide again into 2 to 3 interlobar artery which run in between the renal pyramid. At the basis of the renal pyramid, the interlobar artery divide dichotomously to form arcuate artery. So this is the arcuate artery. That arcuate artery in turn divide into interlobular artery perpendicular to this arcuate artery, and the afferent arteriole it is derived from the interlobular artery itself. So what is its fate then? So up to here is the interlobular artery which gives off afferent arteriole that will form in the Bowman's capsule. It will form a glomerulus which is nothing but a tuft of capillaries and then the efferent arteriole. This efferent arteriole divide and redivide, it will form a peritubular capillary network. So in the kidney there are two sets of the capillaries. One is at the glomerulus and another one is the peritubular capillary network. So these two sets of capillaries it will form a renal portal circulation. So these are the renal portal circulation which are present in the kidney. This efferent peritubular capillary network it will having a venous end. So here it will drain into the interlobular vein. We will see a ray diagram or schematic diagram of it. The aorta gives renal artery at the level of second lumbar vertebra which will divide into 5 segmental artery. Each segmental artery will give a lobar artery for each lobe of the kidney. Then it will divide into 2 to 3 interlobar artery. At the basis it will form arcuate artery. Then it will divide into interlobular artery, afferent arteriole, then the glomerulus. So glomerulus and the peritubular capillaries they will form two sets of capillaries which will form a renal portal circulation. At the venous end of this peritubular capillaries it will form a interlobular vein. See the renal arteries, these are the end arteries, they do not anastomosis with each other, but this is not true for the renal vein. It will have anastomosis with each other. The interlobular vein then drain into the arcuate vein, a reverse flow of it, interlobar vein, and this interlobar vein will form a renal vein which will drain ultimately into the inferior vena cava. So this is again the same diagram. The venous end of the peritubular capillary network it will form a interlobular vein. This interlobular vein in turn it will form a arcuate vein, drain into the arcuate vein, and this arcuate vein into the interlobar vein which will form a renal vein here, which will drain into the inferior vena cava. The nerves, lymphatic drainage of it, it drains into the lateral aortic group of lymph nodes. Again these are present surrounding to the renal artery at the level of the second lumbar vertebra. The nerve supply, the kidney it is supplied by the renal plexus and these are nothing but the offshoots from the celiac plexus. So in this diagram you can see this is the abdominal aorta, at the anterior side of which is the presence of celiac ganglion, superior mesenteric ganglion, and this is the inferior mesenteric ganglion, and these two are the aortico-renal ganglia. The renal plexus they are derived from this ganglion which are nothing but the offshoots from the celiac plexus. It contains sympathetic fibers that is from T10 to L1 which are vasomotor in nature. Because of this reason the pain is radiating from loin to groin region in certain conditions, infectious conditions. The afferent nerves of the kidney belongs to the segment T10 to T12 and the parasympathetic nerve supply it is again by the vagus nerve. For the exposure of the kidney, it must be exposed from behind, and the following layers must be reflected one by one, and these are the skin, superficial fascia, posterior layer of thoracolumbar fascia, then erector spinae muscle, then middle layer of thoracolumbar fascia, quadratus lumborum muscle, and the anterior layer of the thoracolumbar fascia. So this is the exposure of the kidney retroperitoneally. Then we will see in detail about the applied anatomy of the kidney. Palpation of kidney bimanually. A normal kidney of an average built individual is usually not palpable, but in a thin subject, the lower part of kidney may be made palpable during deep inspiration by placing two hands, one in the loin region and one on the anterior abdominal wall. So this examination is called as the bimanual examination for palpating only the lower part of the kidney. The renal angle. The renal angle, it is formed by lower border of the 12th rib and the outer border of the erector spinae muscle. This muscle is the erector spinae muscle. So angle between the lateral border of erector spinae and lower border of 12th rib is called as the renal angle. Mainly the pain, renal colic pain, it is felt as a dull aching pain in this region. If you want to expose the kidney retroperitoneally, an incision, oblique incision is made from the renal angle to the lower side. Only the thing to taken into consideration is that as sometimes the 12th rib may be absent and 11th rib may be mistaken as the 12th rib. The pleural extension, you can see in this diagram, the pleural extension is horizontally at the level of the 12th rib. So there are, into taking the incision, there are chances of opening of the pleural cavity. So a measure has to be taken to not to damage this pleural sac during the incision. So this is the renal angle. When perinephric abscess is present, perinephric abscess is the abscess present surrounding to the kidney, then in that condition also swelling and tenderness can be felt in the renal angle. So this is the importance of renal angle, which is the angle made between the lateral border of erector spinae and the lower border of 12th rib. Then certain conditions such as acute nephritic syndrome. This is the inflammatory condition into which patient present with increase in the blood pressure, blood in the urine called as hematuria, edema, and the increase in the nitrogenous waste products, mainly the urea level. So blood urea is increased in the acute nephritic syndrome. Nephrotic syndrome is the another condition. It is mainly because of abnormality in the structure of the glomerular basement membrane, and the patient presents with the proteinuria, hypoalbuminemia, and the edema. Diabetes insipidus, it is a condition due to deficiency of the antidiuretic hormone, where there is the passage of large volume of the dilute urine. The acute renal failure, mainly its cause is being poor cardiac output, and that poor cardiac output is mainly due to hypovolemia and the hypotension, and the patient presents with the oliguria and hyperkalemia and acidosis. The chronic renal failure is the another condition due to persistent glomerular arterial disease, which will again lead to hyperkalemia, acidosis, and the increase in the blood urea level, that is called as the uremia. Kidney stone or the uretary stone, it is the most common condition into which stone may get impacted at the minor calyces or at the pelvis or at the upper part of the ureter. Generally, the ureter is having normally pore constriction, so stone may get impacted, large stone mainly. The small stone may get flow up along with the urine, but large obstructed stone, they are called as the staghorn calculus, and for that matter you have to need some procedure. The one such procedure to avoid operation is another procedure that is called as extracorporeal shock wave lithotripsy, into which a cannula and the probe is transmitted through the urethra up to the part of the renal stone, and that stone get fragmented with this and get expelled out through the urine. So this procedure is a second chance to avoid the surgery. This is the extracorporeal shock wave lithotripsy for the fragmentation of the stones. The polycystic kidney, it is the most commonest anomaly. It may be bilateral one. The polycystic kidney is mainly due to failure of establishing luminal continuity between secretory and the collecting part. The glomeruli continue to function and filtrate, get accumulate in the tubules, which undergo cystic enlargement. So these cysts are mainly because of Failure to continuity between the secretory part and the collecting part. As we all of you know, the kidney developing two parts. So failure of continuity of that two part will lead to a cyst formation, and these are the cysts present all over the kidney, and this is the most common condition, which is bilateral one. Diabetic nephropathy, it is present in the patients with the diabetes mellitus. In this, tubulointerstitial changes of the kidney can be seen. It is present along with the diabetic retinopathy, and it will lead to the renal failure also. Tumor of the kidney, these are the abnormal masses present at the kidney, which are the carcinomatous condition. Developmental anomalies of kidney. According to number, there may be complete agenesis of the kidney. There are multiple kidneys. According to the position, as the kidney first develops in the pelvic region and then it gets ascend up to the lumbar region. But if it failed to ascend, then there will be the pelvic kidney and the fused kidney. According to shape, if the lower two poles they get fused with each other, either anterior to the blood vessels or posterior to the blood vessels, it will present a horseshoe shaped kidney if the lower poles of two kidneys get fused. If the complete kidney of the two sides get fused with each other, this is called as the pancake kidney or the disc kidney. So these are the few developmental anomalies. The dialysis, it is the condition, it is the treatment which is done in the chronic renal failure patients. There are two types of dialysis. One is peritoneal dialysis and another one is the hemodialysis. Peritoneal dialysis, it is a type of dialysis which uses peritoneum in the abdomen as the membrane. It requires membrane through which the fluid and dissolved substances are exchanged with the blood. So this is the dialysate bag and this is the drainage bag, and this peritoneum, it is used as a membrane for dialysis. It will what it will do, it is used to remove the excess of the fluid and the toxins levels. Hemodialysis. Into this hemodialysis, a subcutaneous arteriovenous fistula is made between the radial artery and the cephalic vein at the wrist region. This is the most ideal site for the repeated vascular access. Then the patient's blood is drained from the cephalic vein through the artery into a membrane. So this is the arterial line this is the dialysis machine. So in this dialysis machine, again the function is same. It is used to remove the excess of the fluid and the toxins levels. So this is the hemodialysis. Then kidney transplant is also one of the conditions into which donor kidney is transplanted into the recipient's kidney at the iliac fossa. So this donor kidney is placed in recipient's iliac fossa as the renal vessels, as the renal artery, these are the end arteries, so it has to be anastomosis. The renal artery and the renal vein, they are anastomosed with the external iliac artery and external iliac vein respectively, and the ureter is connected with the urinary bladder. So this is the transplanted kidney. These are certain tips for the keeping your kidneys healthy. Eat a healthy diet rich in the fresh fruits and veggies. Reduce salt intake. Exercise regularly. Maintain a healthy weight. Say no to smoking and manage your blood sugar level. These are the very easiest steps to keep your kidney healthy. Thank you.